Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the studio of CSR AdviceBox. I'm Marina Stefanova, and step by step we are looking for the right formula of sustainability of your business. Sustainability coming from a proactive, responsible and transparent business behavior concerning your products, your services and your relations with the stakeholders. Today we are going to discuss a very important topic, the environmental pillar of sustainability in your business, the life cycle of your products, services and operations. It includes all the aspects covering and taken from the living and non-living nature. What is your impact on it and how you can measure and manage it. Take a cup of coffee or a very delicious green tea, sit comfortably in your chair, put your headphones and let's discuss together. What is it? How long does it take to cover all the environmental aspects? How much does it cost to follow the data, to gather the data and to be able to improve your performance, and does it worth paying attention at all to the issue of environment? As I already told you, there are quite many of the environmental aspects when we speak about sustainability of your business. So let's start step by step and seeing what they include. The first one are the input materials to produce your product and services and to package them as well. The materials are usually renewable and non-renewable, while the first ones include wood. Usually the second ones are coming from metals, minerals, oil, coal or gas. The products can be composed by virgin or already recycled input materials. Usually they are measured by weight and volume, and all the amount of the used input materials can very clearly define what is your dependence on natural resources. Energy is another very important element of your work. You can use it for transportation, for electricity, for cooling, for heating, for steam. You can purchase it or self-produce it. Usually, energy is coming from two types of sources: renewable, like wind, like sun or water, or non-renewable, just like the coal, the natural gas, the petroleum. Energy consumption is something very important to measure, and during your work you can decide whether to put some of the energy consumption coming from outside your organization during the upstream or downstream activities. It depends on the volume, it depends on the decision of the stakeholders, and finally it depends on your ability to control it and work on it. The access to water is also a very important element which we are discussing as a third one. UN define it as a very important human right, and we are discussing it here like a withdrawal of the fresh water and its consumption during our production cycle. The withdrawal of a water system is really very risky because it can put the level of the water down or reduce the amount of fresh water for drinking, or even jeopardize some of the ecosystem so they cannot operate properly. Be careful while working with water, because in the CSR history we have a very emblematic examples of how huge and long-term are the economic and social consequences if we really somehow take it from people. Another important aspect is protecting biodiversity. Biodiversity covering the survival of plant and animal diversity, being able to continue with the genetic fund, or managing ecosystems. Let's face it, natural ecosystems provide us with fresh air and water, keep us healthy, and be able to reproduce the whole ecosystem around. If it's necessary for your operations, you have to have a biodiversity management system and be able to put various tools in it, including some of remediation of already broken natural habitats, or being able to revive them, or just keeping them without any change, keep them at the same level. Emissions are the next element of natural pillar of sustainability, and you should really focus on what is going out of your company, out of your business, in the air. I know that you already heard some words like greenhouse gas emissions or others, but I will not put them in a list for you, because you can read it very detailedly in some of the very important and worldwide updated documents, such as the Kyoto Protocol and the following Paris Agreement. This work was done and managed by United Nations, and you can see all of the gases there in a list that you can see what is your performance indicators in the company and how they contribute or they correspond to the ones put in the conventions on climate change. On the other hand, you can use one of the most recognized worldwide instrument for reporting, which is the Global Reporting Initiative Standards, and be able to carefully and in details follow what are the exact numbers by volume, by weight, and what are the formulas to calculate them properly. Last but not least, the generation, treatment, and disposal of waste, including the improper transportations, are very important for calculating your proper environmental footprint. This is particularly harmful because it can be misused in countries where there is lack of the proper infrastructure for transportation or reducing of this kind of waste. Of course, there is always the force majeure circumstances where there is a spill of oil or coal in the water or in the air. I know it's hard, but you have to do everything right in order to diminish this risk to zero. One very practical question. Shall we cover them all? No, it is not necessary, as long as you are in a business where you don't have any particular close and enormous impact on environment. If you are dealing with banking, for example, it is not the case. But there are several tips that you can follow in order to see which of these topics are material for your business, and you should focus on them. The first one is that you have to see all the national, international, regional, and branch legislation that is requiring from you to follow complete environmental compliance. This is something you cannot avoid. Second, do not forget not only to focus in the borders of your organization, but also follow upstream and downstream categories. They are important, especially for the energy we already discussed. Lastly, you have to put all the information that you gather in a context. It has to be concrete, it can be and should be comparable, and be able to be followed for a longer period of time in order to bring you some content information. All these elements may look spread away, but they are part of one unique and consolidated environmental management system. We already discussed in a whole series how to prepare one, so we are not going to repeat it. What we are going to focus on now is how to determine the targets that are necessary to be able to see your improvement in the process, your diminishing and reduction in the way you use natural resources, nevertheless they can be renewable or recyclable. The main reduction initiatives can include the following: process redesign, conversion and retrofitting of equipment, changes of behavior, and operational changes. As you see, this is a continuous business process. You have to collect all the data necessary in order to build a profile of your company in the field of environment and calculate your footprint during the whole time. Maybe it happens on an hourly basis, maybe it's on a daily, weekly, monthly, or a yearly one. It depends on the way you're going to calculate the exact input of materials, energy, water, all the other things that we discussed. Another thing that you have to have in mind in order to calculate some kind of a time in order to manage it is that there are concrete projects related with the environmental performance, and most of them will have their own time schedule. So they usually, if they are related with infrastructure and changing of the process of production, they are usually between 8 till 12, sometimes 2 or 3 years long. Sometimes it is only an operational change which is coming with additional paper that you have to vote and disseminate among your colleagues, and it may take not more than 2 months, for example. I have to mention one more time here the sustainability reporting. It is usually happening on an yearly basis, and there you have to put all the calculated and accumulated data regarding the environmental performance. Now is the time to choose which are going to be your methodologies for the reporting or the guidelines that you will follow. As I already told you, the GRI standards are the best concerning environmental issues. I think that one of the main budget lines that are going to enlarge your budget costs is here. It is related with environmental compliance and with the way you operate. You produce, you transport, you recycle, you manage your waste. I know it's hard and you have to put a lot of efforts, like not only finance but human and skill resources, but please make it as soon as possible, if possible, because the only thing that matters here, except the economic viability, is to be able to go out and say loudly that you are trying, you are doing your best in order to manage your environmental performance. I have heard many times that people would really like to live in an eco-friendly way. They would like to have eco-friendly lifestyles, but they are not ready, for example, to reject energy consumption. So we have to offer them a smart solution, an innovative solution, and to answer to their need simultaneously. It's a challenge that you will tackle, I'm sure. I'm completely convinced that this is one of the primary issues for every company to tackle with. It goes directly to calculation of your footprint, and it helps you bring the reduction targets, which can be predictable, they can be reliable, they can be concrete, they can be doable. And finally, it builds the level of trust necessary for your social compliance from now on, because now citizens of planet Earth are urging and would like to support initiatives and companies and businesses that are really taking care of environment. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being with me in the CSR AdviceBox studio. The topic we were discussing was very interesting, but if you find it useful, You can go to our YouTube channel and subscribe for any other videos that we already have produced. You may like us, share the information among your peers, thus helping us enrich the CSR online community of practitioners. If you want to have the whole season series, you can go to our website and pre-buy them. I look forward seeing you in 2 weeks when we are going to discuss how to improve your human capital through training and education. Till then, follow our Facebook page and see all the recent CSR updates worldwide.